The room smelled faintly of cleaner and new carpet, the kind of neutral effort governments make to feel welcoming. Flags stood stiff behind the podium. People shifted in their chairs. Programs folded and unfolded. When they called my name, I stood with everyone else, right hand raised, voice steady enough to surprise me. Halfway through the oath, my father cleared his throat. It was not loud. It did not need to be. He had always been good at choosing moments that carried their own amplification. "Time for the truth," he said, smiling the way he did when he thought he was being reasonable. "We adopted you for the tax break. You were never part of this family." There was a pause, the kind that feels elastic, stretching longer because no one knows whose turn it is to speak. My sister laughed softly, a sound she had perfected for aligning herself with outcomes before they were official. My mother stared at the program in her hands as if it had suddenly become very interesting. I noticed, with a distant curiosity, that I didn't cry. I noticed the hum of the air system. I noticed the way the official at the front blinked twice. Then once more, like someone deciding whether a line had been crossed or merely smudged. I had imagined, once, that if this moment ever came, my body would give me away. That grief would rush forward, make a spectacle of me. Instead, there was a neat, clinical feeling, like realizing you'd misfiled something years ago and finally understanding where it belonged. I sat down because the oath required it. The words continued around me. Citizenship, allegiance, responsibility. They sounded procedural. That helped. I thought about the kitchen table where forms had always appeared without explanation. About how affection in our house had been expressed through efficiency. Bills paid on time. No unnecessary warmth. Nothing wasted. It had felt like love when I was small. Felt like accounting now. When the oath ended, there was scattered applause. I stood again, not quickly. Standing felt like part of the process, not a rebuttal. "I'd like to clarify something," I said. My voice carried farther than I expected. Polite, measured. The way you speak when you want a record, not an argument. Actually, I didn't finish the sentence. The official raised a hand. "One moment," she said, already stepping forward. Her tone wasn't kind or unkind. It was exact. She addressed my father directly. "Sir, this is not an appropriate forum for personal statements." "I'm just being honest," he said, the smile tightening. "People deserve to know." She nodded once. "What people deserve is accuracy." There was a rustle as she picked up a folder from the table. Mine. I recognized the edge of a document I had signed months earlier, in a quiet office, without witnesses who mattered to my family. "For the record," she said, turning slightly so the room could hear, "the individual you're referring to completed the naturalization process independently. Sponsorship was not familial. Financial responsibility was assumed personally. The adoption you're describing has no bearing on today's proceedings." The words landed without drama. No gavel. No raised voice. Just fact, laid flat. My father's face drained in stages, like color being removed by careful hands. He opened his mouth, then closed it. My mother finally looked up. My sister's smile slipped. Not gone, just postponed. As if she needed time to adjust her understanding of the room. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief. Alignment. The official turned back to me. "You were saying." I smiled because smiling was appropriate. "Nothing that needs adding," I said. And it was true. Everything essential had already been said by someone whose job it was to be believed. The ceremony moved on. Another name. Another oath. Applause that meant nothing and everything at once. Afterward, people shook hands, took photos. My father hovered at a distance, recalibrating. My mother approached, stopped, adjusted her purse strap. She didn't apologize. She rarely did. Silence had always been her language of choice. Outside, the air was colder than I expected. I stood on the steps with a paper folder tucked under my arm. Official seal. Correct spelling of my name. No annotations. There was no confrontation. No last word. Just space. I understood then that identity isn't something you win back in a single sentence. It's something you secure quietly, over time, with signatures no one else thinks to read. The betrayal remained real. It didn't dissolve just because it had failed to land the way it was meant to, but it no longer owned the moment. I walked away with my paperwork complete, my history intact, and the clear, unsettled knowledge that dignity does not require permission, only proof.